Before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you guys know I just made Photo Banter hats for the podcast. So if you're interested in purchasing one of the Photo Banter hats, would like to support the podcast, I'll put the link in the description of the show, or you can go to the Photo Banter Instagram, and in the bio I'll have a link to my merch store where you can buy the Photo Banter hats. Appreciate the support, as well as I mentioned before, all the episodes moving forward, you can watch the video version on YouTube if you're interested in the video version. So you just go to the Photo Banter YouTube page and you can check that out. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to tell you guys about PicDrop. PicDrop is an image transfer tool I've been using personally for over 4 years now. I know you guys have heard me talk about it many times, but it's really a great tool that I use every day when I'm delivering photos to my clients or when I just need a place to store my photos online. The cool thing about it is you can make custom folders for each job, and this kind of streamlines my workflow. My clients can leave notes on the photos, rate them, and just a easy way to not only just manage my files and send them to clients, but this keeps it organized and easy way to communicate with my clients with the photos, and never had any issues or had to explain to my clients how to download them, which I always had to do with some older outdated platforms like WeTransfer and Dropbox. But with PicDrop, it was actually designed by working photographers for photographers, so they really understand what you need and are constantly updating the service and with new features and whatnot. So I can't recommend it enough. So definitely go check it out. All you got to do is enter the promo code BANTER when you sign up at PicDrop.com, and you'll get 2 months free of PicDrop image transfer tool. But like I said, I've been using it myself every day for almost 4 years. So go give it a try and let me know what you guys think. Welcome back to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, I welcome photographer Alexis Cuarezma, who is based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Alexis has worked with clients such as Nike, Sports Illustrated, HBO, and People magazine, to name a few. In this interview, I speak to Alexis about his recent photo project on ballet dancers, which he self-published in a new magazine titled Destined for Greatness, which features not only amazing imagery, but also goes into depth of the stories of his subjects, as well as his creative process. I also speak to Alexis about his approach to lighting, as well as what he enjoys about using 8x10 cameras. Alexis is an accomplished photographer who brings a real enthusiasm to his work, so I was excited to get an opportunity to speak with him. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and thanks so much for listening. Alexis, excited to have you here, man. Like I said before we started this, we've been like Instagram friends for a while, and so excited to connect. You have a really cool magazine you just came out with, like a ballet project you've been working on. You sent it to me, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I guess with that project, man, you were kind of photographing ballet. It's called Destined for Greatness. Like, how'd that all come together for you?
You know, that's I like to say I've been.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been shooting, which is crazy, for 20 years, and I think to me personally, that's like the best work I've ever done because it's personal work, and I have no reductions of being told what to do by a client, and that came to me pretty much because by putting myself out there, actually, the principal dancer photographer was Christine, and I connected with her because her fiance saw a behind-the-scenes video of me doing a Sports Illustrated cover shoot, and he's a photographer too. So like he saw that, and then he just reached out to me and said, "Hey, you should work with Christine." I looked her up, and I was like, "Oh, dang, she's like amazing." She's a principal at American Ballet Theater, and that's how I connected with her. And then we FaceTime. She was in Hong Kong. But we FaceTime for like 2 hours, 2-3 hours. She told me the whole story and everything like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'd love to, let's figure out how to work together. And we were able to connect in LA because she was going to be there, I think, in a few weeks later. And I wanted to do a short film with her. And so I put together a team. And the cinematographer is actually Sean, the owner of the studio for that project. And I went down to LA. And then the first day I worked with her, we worked for 12 hours. And that was the first time in my career ever that I worked with somebody that was at the top of their game.
Because had you ever photographed ballet or anything prior to this? Did you have an interest in it? Or?
I did photograph a few dancers, none of them near the level of Christine. It was in New York, I photographed a contemporary dancer, which is way different than ballet. Mm-hmm. And then I did a few other dancers that were just nowhere near her level. And then because she's in the ballet world, there's different ranks, and principal is like the top like 1% of that. You know what I mean? Some people dance their whole lives and never reach that level.
Yeah, that was I actually because I don't know anything about ballet and like in the magazine, which I think you can still purchase. You're doing or like another you can purchase on your website, right? But yeah, there's like different levels. It's like what is like there's like 3 levels or something like that with ballet.
Yeah, so there's core ballet, which is like the body of the ballet, and that's a large portion. That's technically when you become a professional and sign on to a company, and then the next promotion is generally soloist.
Yeah.
And then that's one level up, and then after that is principal, and the principal's where you get like the main roles and everything. That's usually like like the top. Like it's like making it actually in ballet in the core is a huge accomplishment. It's like being in the NBA or MLB.
Yeah.
And then essentially being a principal is like being like Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson. You know, it's like the top. The names you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cool thing about the magazine that I really appreciated, and you not only show the work, but you kind of tell the stories of the people, but then you also kind of show your process and kind of even talked about how some of the shoots came together. And I think I really appreciated it because it just kind of showed as a photographer, like if you like reach out to people and kind of, because a lot of, like you were saying, like the shoots kind of came together like organically a little bit sometimes. Like people might have saw your work and it kind of, from reading the magazine, it seemed like it kind of evolved over time and you got more and more dancers, right?
Yeah, it's not easy, and the word organically. I'm not sure if I agree to that because a lot of the stuff is happens, and to me, like I said, part of it that they say success begets success.
Yep.
But I'd like to say, a tenacity could will success into existence.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff that, like with Christine, that was just a blessing, like, right? But with that being said, that was also me putting myself out there.
That's what I mean. Like you put yourself out there, and then it just built. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then so after that with Christine, actually, I wanted to continue shooting ballet. And I had someone else reach out to me, and I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this is gonna be easy. This is cool, right?" And it just did not go well with that person. It just like fell apart. And without getting into much details, I just said it was not a good experience. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, maybe Christine is a one-off. Maybe I should just move on from ballet and like not even bother. But I was like, no, I refuse to believe that. I was like, she was amazing to work with. There's got to be someone else. And so I kept going at it. And usually, I try to stay pretty positive, but like the way I think, I don't know, you could judge me on my mentality, anyone listening to it, but when something doesn't work out, right, like that, I'm not saying I invite it or that I like that, but usually when something like that happens, my mentality is I'm going to do everything in my power to make that person regret that they did that, and that it didn't work out, or they flaked on me or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And like that just motivates me. Okay, cool. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to make this happen, right? And then I reached out to like other dancers. I got no. I reached out to someone. I got no. I reached out to a few people, and then the person that ended up saying yes to me was Sasha the Solo, and like that was just literally a blessing. Sasha's an amazing person, and literally I think in the magazine I even call her my guiding light because she's helped me out so much. She's been the only person in my entire career where I photographed her like in every photography format.
Yeah, I saw that you shot like 8x10,
everything
4x5. Yeah, it was incredible.
And that happened again. So that's why I was saying I don't know if I would say organically. Yeah. That happened because something didn't work out, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna give up. And I kept going, and I think you get rewarded if you keep going, if you have consistency.
Because with the zine, did photographing ballet, did you kind of know you wanted to make a zine and a book? Because I think even on the back of the zine, I think you have another, like a book coming out called Destined Divine.
Yeah.
You can pre-order it now. But like going into shooting ballet, did you know it was going to be a project? Like you wanted to put into like a print format, or like what was kind of your goal initially?
No, I didn't have any goals. Yeah, I with Christine, I wanted to make that short film, and then all the photos were an afterthought. But the biggest thing I learned from that is since I had two things that were extremely luxurious on my side. I had the luxury of time, and then I had someone extremely talented, to work with and collaborate with. And I absolutely loved the work that I ended up doing because it was all done in intuition. And then after that, I worked with a few other, I worked with one principal dancer. I did a quick shoot with him. And then I worked with Sasha. And then I was like, I really like this work. I was like, I want to put it into a book. And then so I tried to edit it and put it all together. And then again, the biggest thing I learned from there, all that work is done on intuition. So it's all done like emotionally based, like without like an assignment or without like thought on there. And then the biggest realization I had with that was like, oh dang, okay, that work is great, super creative, but like none of it matches because it's all like kind of being done emotionally, like all over the place. So I was like, okay, cool. Like if I really want to make this into a book, you know, like I need to have something that's consistent. So from there on is how I started doing close-up portraits of the dancers in film. I shot it in 120 film. And I was like, okay, I have to have some sort of structure, part of structure, so it's consistency.
Yeah.
And the reason why I thought about that is because, okay, cool, like if I have 3 dancers or anything like that, or 5, I want to introduce them in a specific kind of way. And what I realized in the work that I did, I was like, it's all moody, it's all lighty, dark, and you can't really even see who it is. So I was like, okay, cool. So I had to come up with a way I could do a portrait of them and you could see them. So like that's how I came up with, okay, let me do a close-up portrait of them. That way you could actually see who they are. And then that would be the way I could introduce them. And so that's how I started with that structure. And I was like, so I kind of figured that out along the way. And for me, at least, right, I am self-aware enough and I know myself enough that to know that if I would have hired a consultant or a photographer or whomever to ask advice for, and they would have told me that, I know I would not have listened.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, this is my project, I want to do what I want. And essentially I would have wasted money, right? And I had to kind of learn that on my own and figure it out through trial or through experience, I should say. On there by like doing the work and then wanting to do X, Y, and Z with it. I'm like, okay, I've done all this. It'll work better if I do it this way.
Yeah.
And that's way of like, I guess self-teaching or self-discovery, I think is the best way to learn.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the magazine, the work, and the project is there's a lot of different types of photography. Like it's like your amazing studio portraits, but then you also did like some really cool reportage, like kind of following them training or like physical therapy stuff or the stuff they kind of do to prepare to dance. Like what kind of made you want to kind of do a little bit of both? And like, because it is a mix of type of photography, but it all kind of blends together, I guess.
Yeah, we were talking about a little bit earlier of, a photographer that really inspired me to start my career was Mike Zagaris.
Yep.
And he does all reportage work, and doing that. And I that's something I always wanted to do. And I wanted to have a career like him in doing that. And I shot high school football, and I basically copied what he did, like, right? But I shot everything in the locker room. I had, full access, which is great. And then just over time, I found out that I ended up doing portraiture, and lighting a lot. So I just gravitated towards that a lot more. But when you're following someone, if you want to tell a story, you could do a lot with portraiture and set up stuff, but you can't do everything through that. There's a lot more to the story that you could tell that if you get access to it, it's great if you could follow the person and do all that. And that experience I got from that was from shooting, I guess you could say, high school sports and doing reportage work like that.
And do you feel like this doing different types of photography is kind of makes you stronger as a whole as a photographer? Because I think a lot of people they know you by your amazing lighting and studio stuff and all this cool stuff you do with like color. But then it was really cool to see one of the dancers, he photographed her in her home, like with her kid and all this and stuff. But because I think some people as a photographer, some people say oh, you need to just do one thing and be the best at that. But do you feel like kind of practicing different types of photography just makes you stronger in what you do?
I think so. They're way different things and different approaches to doing it. But I think it's always good to do. I mean, I shot everything when I first started. Like I shot engagement sessions, I shot weddings, I shot high school football. I did family parties, like kids' birthday, like everything. They're to a certain extent they're all different, but the one thing they do all have in common is that they're all at the end of the day end up dealing with people. And when I first got into photography, my idea of photography before I was a photographer was that I was like, oh, I thought you had a cool camera and a cool lens and you dialed in some weird settings, and then that would magically make a
turn it out.
that would magically make a awesome photo. And then so actually that's when I first started in photography. I dove into the technical side of it, to learn as much as I could, because I almost believed that, that's what I believed, right? And then so I got real good on the technical side of it, and then I quickly realized, I was oh shit, I have to interact with people. And I'm the most awkward person ever, introvert. And I was like, okay, like this sucks. Like it doesn't matter how good camera you have or whatever you have. Like if you don't got good people skills, like your photos are gonna fall flat.
Yeah.
And then so from then on, like I started like learning like I'm on like taking like self-help like courses, communication, and how to just be a better person, and that definitely helped me out on there, and just putting yourself out there. And people get really scared to like ask a stranger or anybody for a photo or just going up and talking to them, but it's just like I like to say it's funny, like being a photographer, like you almost take photos on the sides, and I'm a full-time like person that takes meetings and portfolio reviews and planning and meetings and all that. Like I do that a lot.
It's like the build up. It's like an athlete gets prepared for the game. You get prepared for your shoot.
Hey, that's a great way to put it. Pretty much like, right. Like a football player, right? You practice 6 days out of the week. You only play 1 day.
Yeah.
And you only do that for what, 3 months out of the year. And then the rest, 7 months or the rest of the year, you got to train. I mean, that's actually a good analogy of like photography, like a lot of people just see the shooting and all that, but like there's so much that goes into it.
Especially with your shoots, because your shoots are very like technical, and like I think I read somewhere, I don't know if it was on your Instagram or your website, but you said generally like on a shoot, you'll bring anywhere from like 10 to 13 lights. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you'll use them all, but like a lot of your work, and that's I feel like you kind of got known for is like incredible like lighting. I guess like when you're photographing. And it's like very high, it's technical because using lots of equipment and light on some of these shoots. Like, how do you approach preparing for these type of shoots? Because it's like, I don't know how much time you have with these dancers, but when you're going into the shoot, do you have like a plan of exactly what you want to execute? Or does it kind of, you bring the gear and then you're kind of playing and it kind of evolves on the shoot? Or like, how does that kind of operate?
So the second one you said, so at least from my experience, I know everyone's different. I know that if I have an idea of whoever a dancer, or even if it's you, like, right, or an athlete, and if I have like a pre-made thought of the, okay, this will be a great picture, let me plan it out, draw it out, and I do the shoot and I execute exactly what I had in my mind. Mm-hmm. I know at the end of that day in that shoot that I have a mediocre image. Okay. Because if I just do what was in my mind, usually that I know it's not the best thing. The best photos I've made are when I woke up that day and I didn't plan to make that photo at all. It happens organically. And for me, like, I know a lot of people say, like lighting like that is technical. And, to go back to, a talk I went to Mike Zagaris. I went to his, a book talk that he did for his book that he released a few years ago. Yeah. And somebody asked him about lighting, the portraiture stuff like that. And I was a little shocked on, his response, and he's like, "Oh, lighting is more, of a technical thing, and you have to be more a technician." And I was a little shocked by that because I was like, to me, lighting is the opposite. To me, lighting is like the most emotional thing for me. Yeah. But I could see where he's coming from down there because I learned on film and shooting on film, and especially when you shot slides, and all that, you had to be technical to get your exposure on point. But now it's like for me, like. And it's something that I've been doing for so long that like it becomes like I don't have to think about it. Mm-hmm. Like I like to say that lighting is like almost like it's like learning a new language, right? When you first learn a new language, like whatever it's French or German or whatever, right? You just first try to learn how to basically communicate, right? And then if you learn all that language, right? Okay, great. Now you know that language, okay, which still will just make a regular communicator. But you need to know that language well enough so it's second nature to you, where you could write poetry in that language, right? When you know that language well enough that you could write poetry with it, that's when you know really well. So that's for me, lighting. It's like I'm not saying I'm expert at lighting, but I'm proficient enough at it that I don't have to think about it a lot. And then to your question on how much time I have, I don't work with a lot of dancers because. I'm very specific with the work, and I tell them I am not here to do. These are Mathilde's words. She's the French dancer that I work with, which I thought is funny because she's amazing. I absolutely love her, but she gave me like she didn't try to insult me, but I was like, you cannot think of a better way to insult me if you wanted to offend me, because one of the things she said, when I first saw your work. Because she was she shared dressing rooms with Sasha DeSolo, and I worked with Sasha for like 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And she's like, when I first saw your work, Alexis, I thought like, oh wow, that's a cool party trick. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like you can. I just laughed, and that was so funny. But what I'm saying is like when you're reduced with time, right, with somebody, you end up doing party tricks because from an artistic perspective, like, right, from a business side, that's great because like you're managing expectations and you're reducing risk. From an artistic standpoint, to me, that's being lazy because you're doing what you already know works, right? So if like for a personal shoot that's not being paid, right? If whoever wants to work with me and says, okay, cool, I'll give you 45 minutes of my time, depending on who they are, like, right? If it was like Steph Curry said that to him, I'll be like, hell yeah, dude, I'll take it, like, right? Because it's someone that's well known. But if it's someone that's like, well established, but like not like super like top 1%, right? 99 times out of 100, or actually 100% of the time, I would say no, because it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do what I already know works. Like, how is that gonna help me grow? And number one, I'm not getting paid for it. Number two, it's not gonna help me grow as an artist. So what am I going to get from it? Like, are you going to like the images? Of course you are, because like, again, I know I'm damn good at what I do, and I know how to make something look great and pretty, but great looking pretty and beautiful doesn't equate to meaningful good work for me. Right. So to do all that work, like I have to get to know the person. I have to have an interview with them and get their feedback. And
that was the interesting thing in the magazine is that you said you try to, if you can, meet with people in person beforehand, and you'll record like an interview with them. And what is it you're asking your subjects in that interview, and like how does it help you with your process?
Even before the interview, I always try to meet them in person if I can first before the interview. And that is just to see how the person is, how they like being talked to, how they speak back to me, if we have any chemistry, right? Because it's like, I'm going to work with this person. Number one, am I gonna like spending an entire day with this person on my time off? That is not, I'm not only not getting paid for it, but it's costing me time and money.
Yeah.
Where I could be working on my fitness, on my health, on my business. You're gonna take time away from that. So like, number one, do I have connection with that person? Am I gonna want to be with this person? Number two, there's the other way around. Are they gonna like me, right? Like how are they responding to me and doing that? So like, I just see that first in person, and then with that too, I'm also seeing everything on that, about that person. Like, right, if I'm meeting them in San Francisco, right? Okay, cool. Like, and they picked a spot. Are they gonna show up on time? Are they gonna be late? Are they gonna end the meeting early? Right? I've met with people before where I was like, I set up a meeting with somebody, and I try to always be careful about like first impressions too, because you never know where things lead up.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, like I set up a meeting one time with the dancer, and I had like a 2.5 hour gap for my next meeting. So I remember thinking like, oh wow, what if I meet with this person and it ends in like 15 minutes, then I'm gonna have like 3 hours of nothing to do like in the area in San Francisco. And I was like, okay, what? So anyhow, I ended up meeting with that person. The 2 or 3 hours like go by like that in a heartbeat. Like we hit it off, and like I'm like, wow, that's great. It went so well. And then like I never ended up working with that person.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, okay. And I've also had portfolio review meetings where I kid you not, Alex, I had like not this portfolio, I had like my old one. And like keep in mind that portfolios were like at that point was like 12 years of my work, like everything I had. That an editor went through it in like 3 minutes. Literally like opened it, like they didn't even open to the first page, like opened it like on the third page, like grabbed like a handful, like an inch, flipped like through the random middle part, like just went and then like flipped to like the end and went okay, and then like literally like 3 minutes they were done, and they were like, what else you got? And I was just like, that I was like, that's like the 12 years of my entire career right there. You see it, and like I had nothing. And okay, and that meeting ended in like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh, that went horrible. And that person ended up hiring me like four times.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was shocked. And so like my point being is like you could do all these things and see how things go, but like sometimes you never know how things are going to end up. But my point being, I do try to meet people to hopefully gauge on how the interaction will be. And usually your intuition, your gut tells you how it's going to be. Yeah. And it's hard to listen to that sometimes, because you could really like somebody, or you think you hit it off, but like your intuition is going to tell you, oh man, it might not work out, and you drown it out.
Or I'm sure, I don't know if you've had this experience where, because some people like they might be more introverted, they're more nervous. So the first time you meet them, they might be a little more standoffish. Mm-hmm. It might take them a little more time to get comfortable. Do you find that with your subjects sometimes, like from the first time you shoot them to the next time, they kind of ease into it and get more open with the process? Or
that's a good point. I would say it truly depends. I would say with the ballet dancers I work with no, because they're generally really good at
They're performers.
yeah. All dancers are to me like extremely underrated when people work with them, because they're so articulate and well spoken and so elegant. So no, but I would say though, with regular people, like when I have an assignment for like a news outlet or anything like that, 100%, because they're not used to being in front of the camera and
Will you
like
try
that.
to talk to those people with assignment work? Will you try to get on the phone with them or meet with them before?
I usually can't. A
Yeah,
lot of
it's
the
hard.
times.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
You can't. I meet him the day of. The only time I've kind of gotten to do that is like I did an assignment for a newspaper.
Yeah.
Cut this off. Completely forgot the name
It's
of
all
it.
right.
Oh my god, I'm blanking out. It's not the Chronicle. It's another SF San Francisco something. Anyhow, I was doing an assignment for a newspaper, and the story was on immigrants coming here to the U.S. In a school that was providing them a place to stay at night, so they wouldn't be homeless. And not ironically enough, but like all those families that I happened to interview were all from Nicaragua, and the writer was there, and the writer didn't speak Spanish, so I was there as a translator. So at that point, that was the first time ever since I was translating that I got to do the interview with the sub, because I was doing it in Spanish and I was translating.
Yeah.
So I got to meet him and then afterwards photograph him.
Do you feel like that helped the shoot? Like he felt more comfortable when you got there, you think?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if this would be a fair assessment, because it's like it helped a lot because I'm from Nicaragua too.
Yeah.
And then right off the bat, like the ring that I have this is the crest that's in the flag of Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Like they instantly saw that and they're like, oh, that's what's on the flag. Oh, you're from here. Yeah. And then so that gave me like instant rapport with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I would say that's like a unique example where like you kind of get you right away get instant rapport when you see someone that's from the same place you're from.
Yeah, definitely. And how long did you work with the magazine stuff? How long did you work on that body of work? That stuff in the magazine.
That the one the Destined for Greatness ones.
Yeah.
So that was in 2018. That's when I photographed Christine.
Okay.
So that work was from 2018 to Mathilde, where I photographed her all last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And because this is one thing I was curious about. Like when you try to start a project, sometimes it's hard to know when it's done. Like, do you feel like you're done with that work, or is it you think ballet is something you're going to continue photographing forever, or like how do you kind of where are you at with the work now? I guess.
That's something I thought about a lot too, because like with Christine, she's amazing to work with, and I wanted to work with her again so bad, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So I 100% would love to work with her again, but I don't know if it will happen. I suppose I could fly out to New York and make it happen, but it had to see her schedule and everything like that. And Sasha, I've been working with her 4 or 5 years. I'm working with her on another project, and the thing with me is just like with Mathilde, the French dancer that's there, like with her, like the 6 weeks that we worked together, the way it happened is just like I was creatively able to do everything I ever wanted to, like in my creative career and in my life. Yeah. Like I interviewed her twice. We did a short film. I photographed her every style that I want. I did everything you could think of, you've ever dreamed of, like with her. I was able to do it with someone extremely talented and accomplished like her. And the thing that just like I think is a complete blessing is we did all that, and there's still so much more we could have done. Yeah. I mean, I went back to France and I photographed her, and we shot a lot too, and it's like there's still so much we could do. Yeah. And for that, I am just thankful for, because it's like that doesn't always happen, right? I'm in the creative mode, and like having that luxury to me is a privilege, and I would keep doing it until I could no longer do it, because I've had the opposite happen before. Like again, when I'm doing client work or paid work, and you're limited with someone, you have 10 minutes with X, Y, and Z, and you have to get this, for the client tells you what you need to get, right? Yeah. When I photographed the U.S. Women's National Team for Sports Illustrated, I had 10 minutes with each athlete, and Carly Lloyd was super awesome. I think if I remember right, she looked me up and she said, "Oh wow, I really like your work."
Wow.
And then so like I was saying, I was supposed to have 10 minutes with each athlete, so she approached me like that, and then she gave me like I think I had half an hour with her.
Okay.
She gave me like as much time as I needed with her, which was like it's like a dream come true. But what I realized from that was like when I'm doing an assignment like that, and in 2 days I have to photograph like every athlete, and then you need to get X, Y, and Z for the magazine. Like that's what's on my mind, and I'm in what I like to say in getting done mode, right? Because you have to execute that, right? And even with athletes, like when they tell me I have 10 minutes with them, I'm in like I start off the shoot pretending that it's only going to be like a minute long photo shoot, and I get what I need in like the first minute, like a close up shot of their face, a 3/4, and a side shot, anything that could be usable for the client of the magazine. And then okay, it goes past 1 minute. Okay, then I go into like my 5-minute mode. Then I could get this right. And we had the 10 minutes. Okay, cool, right? Because when I first started and they told me I had 10 minutes, I would plan out every single minute, right? And I'm gonna get all this, like, right, and fall in love with that idea. And then they change the time with you like 3-4 times, and then when you shoot them, they give you 3 minutes, and you're like, oh dang, like, right, you didn't get that.
You gotta adjust on the fly.
Yeah, so I kind of come prepared for that. And then the reason why I say that is so when I was with Carly and she gave me all that time. After like 10 minutes, I was like, oh shit, I don't know what else to do.
I do now?
Yeah, I was like, I am done. I was like, and I felt horrible because I was like, man, I have this amazing athlete,
yeah,
right, and all that, and I am not thinking creatively because I'm thinking the other part of my mind, like you got to knock X, Y, and Z out.
You're thinking about the clock, and it's like you almost forget.
Yeah, doing that, and so I've experienced that before, and that when everybody asks me, oh, who was your favorite athlete to photograph, like. It was like Carlo was amazing, but I felt like I failed miserably in that part because I was like, man, if I could get that over again, like
because it's like a time like having access to someone like that. It's not something you get all the time. So yeah, I can
yeah. So it's like that like I wish I could get like I feel like I feel like I didn't do her justice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, man, that on my end kind of like I don't want to say it sucks, but like I'm thankful for. I mean, I shot her for the cover SI and everything like that, and they got published. And don't get me wrong, the assignment went well, you know. But for me personally, I just felt like when someone gives you that opportunity, it gives you that beautiful gift, right? Like I wish I could have taken full advantage of it instead of being like a deer in the headlights and be like, oh shit, I gotta know what to do, you know?
Yeah, because it's like, it's hard as a photographer. You always want to walk away like satisfied, but I feel like that you have to have the attitude of like, damn, I could have pushed it a little longer. Because even at this point in your career, like. Do you feel like you're still finding ways to like challenge yourself and like because you obviously have the technical skills, but how do you kind of push yourself creatively at this point when you've been doing this for a long time, you're knowledgeable and you have this skill set, but like how do you keep pushing yourself creative to like push your work, I guess?
You know, one of the things that I learned even when I work with a dancer that gives me the time I'm going back for the personal work because for you know, there's nothing wrong with client work and doing all that. It's great, but just for client work, again, it's like I try to push myself, but at the end of the day, like when last year I shot the cover for Wine Enthusiast magazine, and I photographed like I think I had to do like 16 or 18 portraits, in a day of different people. And for that, I would say that's just way different than me pushing myself creatively because that's great. You work with the team. We had the artistic director and the editor. I work with Jesse, and they have like, okay, we want this look, and then they have like a pitch deck that they have of kind of what they want to do. So okay, great. So like you preset all that up, right? And then you do it. And to me, right, I'm photographing. This is the Wine Enthusiast top 50. I think wine or something that they had a top 50, right? So they're all like business people.
Yeah.
So when I have everything set up, my main job when I do that is to make the person feel comfortable and relax. And then I have a reservation by saying that, but the photos almost come secondary.
Yeah.
You know, it's about making the person feel comfortable, giving them an experience, and then getting what the magazine needs, right? That's the main goal for the shoots. So on that one, using Matilda words, I kind of just did party tricks with the light, you know, getting what they needed. And then it's more about like the experience and having a good time, which you could argue 90+% of photography is that way. You know what I mean? It's about giving a good experience to whoever you're working with. So I would say that is a different kind of approach for me creatively and as a shoot. It's more about like that experience and getting that done. Like I was not losing sleep over that shoot the night before. I was not. I rarely get nervous now. And it was like that. But for like a personal shoot to push myself creatively, to me is like really challenging because the most difficult thing for me is to be present because I'm either like thinking in the past or I'm thinking in the future. And what I'm trying to learn is just be actual present, see the person in front of me and take advantage of everything. Like the day, if it's like raining, is going to affect me. Like how's that person going to be and go with the flow, what that person tells me and, or not tells me or like how the day is going, you know, with them. And creatively, like I said, like I do the interview first because I try to, what I do is make the creative be a reflection of who that person is and what they say and what they inspire from it.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the questions that I one of the things that one of the dancers that I worked with was, I asked him if there's anything he does before, going on stage to help himself get ready. He's like, oh, I've never, told this before, but like every time before I go on stage and perform, his name's also Alexis Valdez. He's like, I tell myself I was born to do this. I look at myself and I was like, oh, okay, great. And I was like, so from there, right, he said, I was born to do this, like, right? So you had the word born, and there's different approaches to lighting and color, right? And one of the philosophies I love about color is Leonardo da Vinci has a theory in color that, the marriage between light and darkness created children, and their children were called colors. Wow. Right? And they had 7 children, red, orange, yellow, green, and each of those colors represents different stages in life, right? And then the first stage, the youngest born, is red. Red is the color of blood, which is the beginning of life. Yeah. Right. So when Alexis said that, I was born to do this, right? He gave me an idea to create a portrait, and have the color red be the dominant on it, like that. And then I flared it, and so the reflection the outcome of that image was directly correlated to what he told me on that. Wow. And then with him, I worked with him on the post, and I said, okay, you said this, so you said you were born to do this, so let's use the color red on that. And I show him the framing, and I'm like, okay, let's work on the pose that would represent you being born to do this. And then he did that. So, okay, he did that pose, so let me light it this way. And so that's what I try to do when I do the work, and make the work reflective off of them. And so I when I'm interviewing, I'm listening to anything that evokes an idea on me like that.
And like, how important is because that's what I really respect about you and other photographers who are doing a lot of personal work. Like, how important is the personal work to not only your career, but just your creativity and growing as a photographer?
I would say to me it's imperative. It's I would say it's what keeps me from being burned out, because it gets me excited. Like when I know, nothing else gets me so excited. Like when I worked with Christine, I literally had to go to sleep at 2 or 3 p.m. because I had to drive over. And that way my schedule worked out. I had to drive overnight to see her when she started her training. And generally when I could wake up at 4 a.m. without hitting my alarm, and I'm excited to go create whatever I get to create, work for 12, 14 hours, and then come back at the end of the day and still be wired and excited from it and look over the images. There's nothing else in the world that gives me that feeling. You know what I mean? I have a photo of my nephew, Santiago, where he's playing with a little thing, and he's 2 years old, and he's lit up like a child, because it was a little Mario star, that he lit up, and he smiled, and you could see how happy he is. That's how personal work makes me feel. Yeah. And there's nothing else in this world that makes me feel like that. So that just fuels me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. And I think when you do work that you're excited about, other people realize you're excited about it and they want to be around that. And I think in my experience, my personal projects, editors react to that. Whereas I feel like if you're just churning out whatever, you're not that enthusiasm about it, people not going to give a shit. So I think that for me, I think it kind of helps not only just the self-fulfillment of being a photographer and creating work you're proud of, but I think it helps with your career and hopefully getting assignments too. Would you agree?
Yeah. And just sharing I mean, you have to, because I like to say, this is how the work looks like when the only person I have to answer to is myself. Yeah. For better or for worse, right? That's who I am. And the people that resonate with it, they really resonate with you, you know, versus doing even, assignment work on there like that. I've noticed that too as well. I'm thankful for everyone who I photographed. But what I realized quickly is when you photograph really famous people, so, and again, this might be my ego talking. You could tell me, Alex, or anyone that's listening. I feel when you photograph a well-known celebrity, your work becomes window dressing, and people don't. It's not about the work. It's about the person.
Yeah, they're already excited about it. It is, because you see it on social media. You could post a photo that you're so proud of, you busted your ass for, you pushed yourself creatively, and you think it's your best work. But then you post someone who's known, and It just does. Yeah, it's just people. I don't know if it's our culture or whatever it is, but like, yeah, it is. It's like a different thing.
Yeah, so that's why I almost prefer. I don't know. To me, like, I use the word sincere a lot. Like the work I do with the personal work that I do, I like to say sincere, and you put it out there, and as long as it's your best, like that's what it's important to me.
Yeah. And in the process of doing the ballet project, was there anything you learned about ballet that you were surprised about, or anything you kind of learned about the art of ballet in the process of doing this?
What I know is I don't know if I said this earlier, but one thing that I always, I don't know if it's surprised, but one thing I should say the word I'm impressed about is at least the dancers I've gotten to work with, again, are extremely articulate and well spoken, and have such amazing stories, that there's so much depth to them that I have yet to see anyone do work with them that takes full advantage of that. And that's what I'm trying to do. Now, I know ballet has been photographed for a long time, and it's real popular, stuff like that. And I'm not trying to disrespect anyone else's work. So forgive me if it sounds offensive, but a lot of ballet work that I see on there, they just use the dancers like voice activated mannequins.
Yeah.
Like, right? Oh, let me put this really expensive dress on you, or not dress, but like expensive clothes, or they'll make it like a whole thing with the big stylist and all that. And they make it, they make it about that, right? And of course they're going to look amazing because they're in amazing shape and they know how to move their bodies, and doing all that. But if you look at a lot of the stuff, like, a lot of it is it's about that, you know what I mean? And or they'll just do a close up with their feet and be like, and that's it, right? But they have so much depth of the story, everything they give up to do, the dedication to it, to the craft, the relentless pursuit to pursue perfection, and everything that they have. It's just so much depth and so much story that they have. And so I'm like the stuff I do with Mathilde, her being a single mom, it's so inspiring, and like, it requires so much. You got to be not only athletic, but you have to be able to perform, know that choreography. And on top of that, like even with Sasha, she does all that, and it's so demanding. And to me, that still does not use her full potential, because I interviewed her, I photographed her, and she's extremely, like I said, well-spoken and expressive, that I think like cinema with her would take full advantage of everything, because like she has all that with ballet, but like a close-up like shot of her doing a role or acting the way she speaks so clearly, and everything like that, like she's almost made for like cinema, a silver screen, in my opinion, at least, right? Yeah. And like that, like a lot of dancers, I believe, are have that potential, and it's just never creatively shown outside of the stage. Yeah. And when other photographers, photograph them generally, like, right, with me, like, right, one of the things I tell dancers is just like, there's a good chance, like, right, photographing a dancer, male or female, they're going to be extremely beautiful and attractive, right? Number two, they're going to be in incredible shape. And number three, they know how to pose and move their bodies really well, right? And any photographer out there nowadays, like, right, you're going to be a decent photographer now with the cameras, right? So you have that combination, it's real easy to make a beautiful photo, right? And that gives off a false impression that the work is good. Just because it's pretty, again, doesn't mean that it's meaningful or good work. You know what I mean? And like for me, like when I photograph like that, like a dancer, I have to work twice as hard to try to get past the obvious and past the easy, and create something with depth that's meaningful.
And how do you do that? Is it
for me? Well, like that's why I like to hopefully try to, I'm working on there, but like that's what I try to talk about in the magazine. It's just like to get to know their story, getting to know them, getting their background, and trying to create work that's reflective of them, and of that tells their story. You know what I mean? Creatively with portraiture, and then also to reportage work.
Yeah. Is it a collaboration on these shoots sometimes? Like, do the dancers ever give you like, they're like, hey, let's try this pose or this, like, I don't know what they got, maneuver?
Yeah, like, I always ask for the feedback. Everybody, I like to say, is different for the most part. Like, for example, like my creative process that I've kind of discovered along the years there, like it was Sasha DeSolo, like that like she helped me, I worked with her a lot, and with her, she helped me create my or figure out my creative process, I should say, with her. And for me, the way I work with them, again, it's personal work, so there's no client and there's one-on-one with them. I'm always asking for their subjective creative input on, or their subjective opinion of what they think about something. Because I want that subjectivity. I want them to tell me what they think. Like, I don't care about like the neutral standpoint or anything. Like, tell me what you think and, you know, about that. And then from there on, I'll figure out, you know, how to express that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for, to create something specific with them. And like, again, with like, with most dancers, right? It's like with Sasha, like I'll literally like, if we have an idea where we're shooting something, I'll put it on a tripod, I'll frame it. I'll show Sasha how the framing will look, and I'll be like, okay, could you think of a pose that, you know, that'll work for that? She'll do the pose. I'll be like, okay, cool. Let me light it. Then, okay, then I light it. Then I show it to her, and then we make adjustments from there. Yeah. So that's generally how I work with her, but like, it's not like that with everybody. Like when I work with Mathilde, like if I would have tried that approach with Mathilde, like we wouldn't have gotten past day one. Right? And
it would have been like
it's way different than her. Like she's like the opposite. And then like if I would have worked, let's say with Mathilde first, and I took that approach with Sasha, like I would not have worked with her past one shoot. Yeah. Like with Mathilde, literally, like I had like the screen up, and the first day she looked at it and she goes, what was this? And I was like, oh, that's, you can see it. She's like, no, I don't need to see that. I'm like, she's like, you do shooting and I'll do the posing and then we just go. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that is way different than, you know, working with Sasha. And then, but with Mathilde, like I said, I've done more work with her in the 6 weeks that I photographed her, you know, before she left, than I have anybody else. I would say for the most part of anyone, this is my career. I photographed Andre Ward for 10 years, yeah. But that was his boxing career. And I was like, I don't want to say I don't count that, but like that was a bit different on there because he has media days, he has fights coming up where he has stuff to do. Yeah. But with Mathilde, like I said, in those 6 weeks, like we just got stuff done and did all that, which is a way different approach than Sasha and other dancers. So
yeah, that's incredible. And I saw you shot like some 8x10, I think, for the what do you like about 8x10, and like when would you decide to utilize that for certain shoots, I guess? If
I could shoot 8x10 all the time, I would. It's just so prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, I've never shot. I shot 4x5. I've never shot 8x10. I mean, what does a sheet of 8x10
so 4x5, I did the math, and I have a 4x5 camera, and my decision to shoot 4x5 is because it's 75% cheaper than 8x10.
Holy shit!
So whatever a 4x5 cost, multiply it by, and it makes sense because it's 4 times bigger. Yeah. It literally cost. I mean, that was a few years ago. I don't know. I know 8x10 got more expensive. Yeah. And doing that, like I love it. Like I was an art major originally in college because you option in photography and you major in art. And I always loved drawing. And one of the things that I loved about like art and painting and stuff like that, or drawing, is that you make these gigantic paintings that are like 6 foot by 8 feet. Yeah. I love that. And I was like, I want to do that with photography. And so that lends itself to like 8x10. And just like if you ever seen that 8x10 a chrome before, or transparency, to me it's the highest quality of like photography ever. It's
insane.
It's beautiful at 8x10, and if I could shoot everything and doing that with 8x10 chrome, I would. But so with Sasha, I was able to shoot one box of 8x10, and like I try not to. I mean, I know this is not good advice, but I try not to figure out how much everything costs when I'm doing personal work. I try to lead it by emotion. Okay, let me just do it. Because if you think about it, like you'll be like, oh damn, this is costing way too much, right? Because I had to do that before, and I'm like, man, I was like, I know I shouldn't have done that.
Gotta invest in yourself, man.
Yeah, that's what I tell myself, right? But and again, I keep going back to the two dancers I work with in there and how they affect me. And like I said, with Sasha, she's lets me like done everything creatively that I wanted. I shot everything in the film. And then when I worked with Mathilde, she affected me directly because she's been the only person in the 20 years I've ever like worked with that was like extremely thoughtful. Like we met for lunch, and I met her out in San Francisco, and then she paid for my lunch. Wow. All right, she didn't let me. And I'm like, she's like, you drove all the way an hour out here to meet me. You know, it's the least I could do for you. And no one has ever said that in the 20 years I've been like a photographer, where I go out, meet them wherever they're at, right? I don't know, they just don't, maybe assume like whatever, but like she's been the only person who said that. And that carried on throughout, you know, working with her. So when we started working, we figured out like, oh, we're going to work together for 6 weeks and doing all that. She not once, not twice, not three, but 4 times on separate occasions. She was like, Alexis, how are you going to make money from this project? Like, right? She just like beat that into me, like, right? And I'm like, because I'm usually not thinking that when I'm working on personal work. I'm trying to make the best work possible. I'm not thinking how I'm going to make money from that. The reason I'm bringing that up, because you were talking about shooting film and all that, it's like she beat that into me so much that the only film I shot with her was one roll of 120 to do the close-up portrait.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I didn't do more film because when she ingrained that into me, and I'm thinking like, damn, she's right. Because I was like, we're gonna be working so much for 6 weeks, and I'm like, if I shoot film, that's like 3 added steps and expenses, because you got to buy the film, you got to develop it, and then you got to scan it, right? And then we're shooting a lot, and I'm like, we're doing photos and a short documentary. And I'm like, dang, like that's like burning the candle on 3 ends, right? And I'm like, yeah, she's right. So I shot her all digitally, right? With the
she's your subject and financial advisor.
Yeah, she actually, I'm doing that. And I'm like, man, and then because then I did the math, because I was like, man, I really love to like shoot 8x10, and I'm like, man, to do 8x10, it's like, for 10 shots, it used to be $250 for a box of 10. I think it went up now to like $350.
$35.
No, I think it went up more because the last thing I checked, it was cheaper to buy a box of 8x10 Polaroids than it was to buy a box of Portra 400.
And by the time you get a process scan, you're looking at like $60 to $70 a frame, basically.
So it's close to. And I did the math. I almost don't want to say, but it's close to.
It's a lot, yeah.
You're going to be spending for one box of 8x10. You're going to be spending, at least on my end, because I had to drive to San Francisco to drop it off to get developed and then pick up. So that's an hour each way. So on expenses alone, you're looking at about $1,200 to shoot it, develop it, and have it scanned.
Yeah.
And that's for 10 shots. That's if you like the image or not. That's if it doesn't come out or not. If the person blinks on there, you're still paying. That's roughly about $120 a shot.
Jesus.
Right. On top of that, you're gonna need more lighting too, because when I shoot 8x10, I'm usually at f22, ISO 200, right? So you're gonna need more. You're gonna have to rent powerful, the power packs, and you're gonna need more lighting and all that like that. So, yeah, man, I still, with all that being said, man, like with like Sasha on there, I want to photograph her again in 8x10, just because expenses aside, I just love the process. I love the way the image looks. It renders everything differently.
Yeah. And
it's a whole different experience when you take out that 8x10 camera and you're working with that person and you see the image upside down behind the camera. It's what made me fall in love with photography, and I love it for better or for worse. It's great. And do that because you like it and it makes you excited about that shoot. Just thinking about that shoot and doing that with Sasha gets me excited about it.
Yeah.
Because the next box of 8x10 that I shoot with her, I really want to do it outside in an environment and make it an environmental one, portraits of that. And I just think that would look so cool because that takes full advantage of the look, the lens. Yeah,
it's only money, right? Alexis, it's only money.
Yeah. So that one, I had to talk to her about that because that's like a whole day, and then I'd have to figure that out and practice on there because I don't know how I would like that one. Like I said, I had to push f22.
Yeah. And
to modify it, so that means I probably have to get power generators and power packs. And that would require me to either, I usually do them by myself because it's personal work to reduce the expenses.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm doing that much, I would probably be better to hire assistants, and someone that knows what they're doing, so I don't blow the power generator, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess to go back, how did you first discover photography initially?
I've always had an interest in it. So ever since I was a kid, I always loved art and drawing. And when I got to college, I had no idea what to major in. And I like computers a lot too, so I decided to combine the two. And I'm like, okay, I'll do a graphic design major. And then in high school, I always had an interest in photography and lenses and cameras, but I made the mistake to listen to people. And I asked my friends in high school that would take the photo classes, oh, how's the photo class? They were, oh, man, it's great, man. But, oh, man, it's so much work. It's so much work. And that scared me away from it, right? And I'm like, oh, dang, I don't want to do all that work. And I wish I didn't listen. I wish I didn't ask. I wish I would have just took it. So that's why I never took a photo course in high school, even though I had interest in it. But in college, since I was a graphic design major, graphic design overlaps a lot with the classes you have to take for photo. So because it checks out the same requirement. So I took one intro photo class on film, and then once I saw that, I absolutely loved it and dove in like to it like head first.
What kind of stuff were you shooting initially?
Well, for that, for college, it was just whatever they had to shoot. I know like one of the assignments was shooting that night, and stuff like that.
Well,
So,
like what kind of stuff did you enjoy photographing? You think early on?
what do you mean? Like when I first started?
Like subjects early, yeah. When you first picked up camera, was it like? Because looking at your work, it seems like you enjoy athletes and stuff and sports and that's.
Oh,
yeah.
so that's actually, I'm glad you asked that on
Yeah.
there. So like so going back to like being a graphic design major and thinking that everything was like, because graphic design is pretty like, I don't want to say solitary, but like you could do a lot on your own,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you're just designing.
Yeah,
you're
you're on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way I started photographing sports is because I said I was like, I was all on the technical side, and then I was like, oh shit, I got to interact with people. And then the main reason that I started photographing sports is because my little brother played Little League baseball, and it's what I had access to. And so I was like, I would just go to his baseball games and photograph him doing that, and then that's how I started there. And then I photographed all like his game as much as I could, and then I had another friend, and like she'd have me help her come out shoot weddings or whatever I could, engagement sessions. But then I moved up from Little League. I went back to my high school, and then the artistic director that was there, her name's Gloria Gutierrez. I can't thank her enough because she was so supportive and helpful in seeing what I wanted to do. She gave me access to like the football games, and she was just so kind, and she was just like, no, you don't gotta pay to get in. Like, just go ahead and do what shoot the games. And like that was so helpful, but then again, that was all like that the human interaction that I had was just with Gloria, and she was so kind and helpful, thank God, because I was super awkward. And then again, shooting football is with a 300 400 lens. You're not really interacting with people. You're shooting the game. So that's how I started shooting sports and how I got into it.
That's cool. And then
it's only because that's what I had access to.
Yeah.
And I had horrible people skills. So thank God I had a little brother that's 10 years younger than me that played Little League.
I can't, man. Like I was talking to you there. I mean, I know we never met before, but you don't strike me as someone who would be awkward with people, man. You seem like, especially with the work you do. So you feel like you kind of grew into that.
Well, I mean, that was what, 20 years ago or so. So you hope that you're not the same person you were 20 years ago. And you evolve over time, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I like to say experience is such a blessing. Getting older is such a blessing, and you learn from your mistakes and your failures, and that helps you grow so much. Yeah. And like I said, in my, like, I'm always a work in progress. I'm a work in progress right now, but like right now where I'm at today, I'm like the best physically I've ever been. I'm always trying to work on myself mentally, and pushing myself and learn a lot from, like, the mistakes I've done before in the past, but like I just know, like, being consistent and showing up, it's like the best thing you could do.
Yeah, definitely, man. And when you got out of college, like, did you already know at that point you wanted to pursue photography as your career, or like what did you kind of do?
Yeah, so I technically ended up dropping out of college because I was just like I was initially a graphic design major, then I took a photo class. I absolutely loved it. And then I was like, okay, cool, let me do a dual BFA on graphic design and photography. And I kind of just dove into photography. And then I already knew what I wanted to like do and shoot. And then this was back in 2005-ish, 2006-ish, where it was, I want to say almost all digital, but maybe kind of still in transition. You could almost say.
Yeah, it was like, I remember it was like, the cameras they were all right, but they were not that great.
Yeah. So the school that I was at, they were still all hardcore into film and weren't really like taking digital seriously. And I just remember like in one of the photo classes they didn't take, like, I ended up teaching or helping people with Photoshop because I was a graphic design major, and I'm like, why the hell am I paying to go to college here and I'm assisting the classes pretty much, you know what I mean? And I ended up dropping out with like a quarter or 2 quarters left to get my BA, which is not the smart thing to do. I need to go back. I'm in that 20-year plan, for school. I do need to go back and just take those 2 courses, and just get my degree, just, for my mom to have it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I like I said, I shot everything I could, weddings, assisted, retouch for people, do whatever you can to get, your bills paid and put food on the table, teach too, not officially like in universities, but I teach workshops and speak. Cool. That helps out a lot too. That would actually be the dream if I could just shoot my personal work with ballet dancers and make a full-time living out of like like showing courses on how I do that work to other photographers, and that way I could shoot whatever I want.
You can do it, man. You can do it.
That would be a dream, man. That would be great, because then I could just focus on what I want to do. Because again, like with the personal work that I do, like I could literally do that. Not only could I do that full time by myself, I could probably employ 3 or 4 people full time.
Definitely.
If there was income for it, like right, for the amount of work that could be done, like you could totally. I love
it. I love the excitement, man. You got me hyped, dude. I love it. And even in the magazine, you kind of mentioned like your dream, like I don't know if it was starting out or whatever, was to shoot like a feature for Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
And then you ended up going on. I think you shot like 5 or 6 covers for them. What was it about Sports Illustrated? It was your dream, and like, do you remember that first cover you got to shoot for them?
Yeah. It was because when I first started shooting high school football, I had a subscription to Sports Illustrated. I was excited to see it. One of the things I always loved seeing was the leading off pages that they had, the 2-page spreads.
Yeah.
It would have I want to say more than 3, or it was about 3 usually that had leading off, and it was always a double-page spread, and it was always like so cool. And I was like, man, my dream would be to get one of these. And then I remember seeing consistently photos that were there by a photographer named Albello.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I called outreach. I emailed to him, and I was like, hey, I just remade my website. I'd love to know, what you think. And like 3 days later, like he responded with the phone call, and we spoke on the phone for like 45 minutes. And he just was so kind and helpful and gave me advice. I'm like, oh, this is who you want to reach out to at. Back then, it was like Icon Images, I believe. This is who you reach out to at, Sports Illustrated, ESPN. And he was just so helpful. And again, back, this is when I was doing like action work, instead of like the more portraiture stuff that I did. And I was just like, man, that would be so cool to get that. And I would do the football programs from the high school. So I would shoot them and design them. That was one of my first clients that I did. And then I literally like copy the format of Sports Illustrated and like had like action stuff like that and everything like that. I mean, it took me from that time, like that was 2006, 2007, and then my first cover for Sports Illustrated was 2014. It was the U.S. men's national team. So that's that's 8 years that it took me from that, like having that to actually happening.
That's incredible.
And it was definitely not easy. Like, you know what I mean? I think, to anyone listening, like I think one of the worst things that you could do to a person is ignore them. And unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're hearing this, like, right, at least from my experience, that's what's going to happen to you when you reach out to your dream clients.
A lot,
that's why you shouldn't wait till you think you have the perfect assignment or dream assignment to like pitch it to them. Because the odds are 9 times out of 10, whatever email you send to them is going to not necessarily be ignored, but it's going to be unanswered. So you need to start, like if you're in college or if it's your dream, you need to start communicating with them now, even though you think you're not ready.
Oh yeah.
And consistently, like once a quarter at least. So that's 4 times a year. Staying on touch on them, and they'll probably not respond, because by the time you're ready, like 2-3 years later or whatever it is, then you'll be on the radar already, and then they'll see that progress, and then you're increasing your chances like tenfold for them actually hiring you.
Yeah, I talked about it on the podcast before, just last year. Like I had emailed ESPN repeatedly for almost like 9-10 years, just checking in, and they were cool. They would respond always, and like I would send them my work, and I finally like a year ago, I got a feature, and like a full on guy. It was like portrait shoot with like a big UConn basketball player, and it was this, like you said, like you keep reaching out, and hopefully eventually it works out.
Yeah, congratulations, man. That's
sometimes awesome. It does, sometimes it doesn't, but I think it's just like how you're saying at the beginning of the interview, like if someone says no, you're like, I ain't quitting, man. I think you just gotta have that like relentless attitude in this thing, because it's like, I feel like photography is almost like pursuing acting. Like it's just rejection. Yeah.
But it's acting's a lot harder because you're at the mercy. You're at the mercy of like having to have a cinematographer friend to produce, to film it, or you're gonna have to film yourself.
Yeah.
As photographers, like think about it, like you have to have that self drive. But we're really lucky in the fact, and again, this goes back to what I was speaking about earlier. Like the photography part of it is like the icing, like the cherry on the top. You know what I mean? It's not like you don't get to shoot a lot, but like it's everything else that comes with it. But if you're a photographer, right? Either way, like if you wanted to shoot fashion or whatever, right? I'm the photographer. I have the control. I have the power that, okay, cool, I could reach out to a stylist. I could reach out to a makeup artist. I could reach out to a modeling agency.
Yeah.
I could reach out to a hotel or a studio and get the location. Yeah. You're producing it, right? Yeah. So you have to be your own producer too as well. And then for the most part, think about all that empowerment that you have. Because if you're the makeup artist, right, you're at the mercy of having to ask photographers, oh, can we do a shoot?
Yeah.
Right? And then they have to find a model, or you can come with the model. But then even after you do that, you're at the mercy of them whenever they send you back the images.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're steering the ship.
Yeah, pretty much. We're controlling that. So always have that empowerment on it. And I know a lot of people, and I noticed this. I don't know if you ever spoken at school, at universities, or done portfolio reviews.
Yep.
But I got invited to one of the universities to review graduating students seeing their portfolios. And I don't know if this is like the career mentality or college mentality, but like the way they were thinking was like, when I reviewed their for their senior projects or their books, the way they were thinking was like, oh, this is my portfolio book, hire me. Hire me, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, that's not how it works. You're thinking like the way it works is like, okay, this is your portfolio book. Okay, cool. Now do that like 15 more times.
Yeah.
And then show it to that person for 2 to 3 years, and then maybe you'll get hired.
And also, no one knows who you are when you're first starting, and you don't have anybody to like. I don't know about you, but I still at this point in my career, you start to get referrals. Like people like who know you, they'll vouch for you and be like, "Hey, this guy, I get a lot of work that way." And when you're first starting out, you don't have that because no one knows who you are. So you have to start from the bottom, and you have to build up and like not screw up and be professional and all that stuff. You know?
Yeah, and. You know, one thing that helps out a lot too, that people like having the website and having good SEO.
Yeah.
I've had some of my biggest jobs because like I asked them, oh, like how did you find me? Oh, I looked up photographers in San Francisco and you came up and doing that, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, I've gotten that shoot with Steph Curry. I got it like that.
Okay. See, SEO, we could do a whole podcast on this. I've spent so much time. You got any SEO tips? Like for me, I just get confused by a lot of it. It's just like, it seems complicated. Like how do you approach it, I guess?
I know the first thing I did wrong, I could tell everybody here, like when I first made my website in college, the title bar of the website was like the website of photographer Alexis Cuarezma, right? And like that is the worst thing you could ever do on your website. Like not even my mom is Googling that. Yeah. Right? So like, no one knows your name, so there's no point in having your name. Have your location and what you shoot. Yeah. On that website. Think in terms of like, take yourself out of who you are, and look at the services you're providing and try to figure out like, so essentially like when you're looking for something, like right, if you want to buy new shoes or whatever, what are you looking on YouTube or what are you looking on the website that you're putting in? Yeah. I guarantee you it's not the specific name of anybody, right? No. So you put yourself in your client's shoes, right? If you're ESPN, if you're Sports Illustrated or whatever, right, client you have, what do you think that person is looking for when they go to Google when they're looking to hire somebody, right? And those are the key words and what you want to put.
So you put those words like in your like bio, or it's like on the front page, or like how do you?
Like everywhere. Like right. And another thing to do is to look at Google. Oh my God, I forget what it's called. Google has a website. It's going to come to me after this, but there's a website that Google has that shows you how popular a search term is. Okay. So you could put, like, for example, like with the ballet work, I was doing some research on this, like, right? So you have different ranks, like, right? You have a principal ballerina, soloist, and corps de ballet, right? So like if I did I photographed some soloists, dancers. So if I'm doing something, right, and you put in for YouTube, right? Photo shoot with soloists, blah, 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 like, right? You do that. The word soloist is the worst ranked term ever. Like it doesn't even rank how bad it is, right? So even though I'm photographing a soloist, right, I would not put that as a title or anywhere in the description because no one's looking that up, right? If you look up the most popular search terms for ballet, you look up they show up Black Swan ballerina, right? And so you want to find a way to put that either in the title or the description, and then that way whatever your work you're doing is going to show up on those popular search terms.
I also had something I started doing. I have a friend who's like a real SEO nerd. This is real technical shit, but like he like your Google business like thing, and I get reviews. Like so, you work. I don't know how much it works, but I've been doing it, and like he said, he thinks it works. I don't know, but it's just another thing. I'll try it. Like that's what, so I set up my Google business page, and like I get reviews from clients and whatever. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
I don't know. I just try to do everything you can, see if it works. But yeah. But I guess for you, man, like at this point in your career, like you've done a lot. Like, what are you excited about now? Like, you still got goals for your photography moving forward and stuff?
100%, man.
Yeah.
It goes to this scare me, man. Like I said, I'm trying to. The biggest goal is to self-publish the book with all the work I do with Mathilde. That's a huge challenge. I wanted. I mean, the magazine that I did took me way too long, because of the writing that I did on it. And that only has 7,200 words and it's 68 pages.
Yeah.
So the book's 256 pages, and I definitely wanted to have writing it to share my entire experience. And that's a tough one, man, because self-publishing books is it's not the best way to make money. You know what I mean? No. It's really challenging, and it's a lot of money, and I need to pre-sell at least 200 copies to make it happen, and more likely 300 copies to actually break even. You know what I mean? And then anything over that would be, if you want to call it profit, you could say that. You know what I mean? You're in the green at least after doing that. And I have it so where if I only pre-sell 12 copies, I'll make it happen. But I need it's important for me to make it happen.
You got it. You're gonna do it, man. You're gonna do it.
Yeah. So that's because to me that work's extremely important. You know what I mean? It was Mathilde. She's a single mom. She is the toughest person that I know with the biggest heart ever. And like I said, that's the work that I did. That's not book in those 6 weeks is the best work I've done my entire career, and I'm excited to share that. And I need to do let's go back on my YouTube channel and share it a lot more to do that. So that's one thing I'm doing. Another thing is I'm hoping to do an exhibition of this work, and then my goal, the dream, would be to do. I have that magazine that I released, and if you look at the end of the magazine, I have 4 more planned. With individual dancers. So the ultimate goal would be to do an exhibition with each of those dancers, a solo exhibition focus on that dancer when I release that magazine somewhere in San Francisco. Yeah. So that way I could try to build a community and have the work that I shot with them, have it live somewhere, on the magazine, and then also for it to be properly seen in an exhibition. Yeah. And if I could make that work and do it once a quarter or 6 times a year for every dancer that I featured, that would be the dream, because then I put so much thought and effort into that work with them. I want it to be seen outside of 3 inches wide on the phone on Instagram.
You know what I love about this, man? And I try to do it myself. It just shows everything you're doing. You're not waiting for anybody to hire you. You're just doing it yourself. And you don't have to wait for anybody to hire you. You can make your own books. You can make your own magazines. You can sell your own prints. You can do whatever. And that's the thing that inspires me, man. So yeah, man, excited to see what you do next, dude.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, that's the goal. And to anyone thinking you can't no. Actually, if anybody that looks at my work, you said nobody ever said, Alexis, you should photograph fast lights. Or Alexis, you should light it like this, or you should do that. All of it is self-driven. No one's gonna tell you that, and then I'm just trying to apply that to other parts of my life. And I'm 41 years old now, and I wish I would have known this, or not known this, I've realized it sooner, I should say, which is kind of obvious. You could take control of that in every part of your life, or anything you're not happy with it. We were speaking a little bit earlier, I think, before on the podcast, where I was just I am in the best shape of my life, and I am taking control of my nutrition, what I eat, and I'm the leanest I've ever been, and it just helped me out so much that I wish I would have done this 20 years earlier. In my 20s, I was in horrible shape. In my 30s, I was in horrible shape. Right now, I'm 41, I'm in the best shape ever. And I'm God, I wish I would have had this knowledge or been more self-aware back when I was in my 20s, instead of wasting all that youth and all that energy you have and just being an idiot and eating horrible and drinking, and doing that. I wish I would have had the clarity I have now. And it's just so much, it just all trickles down in a good way when you take care of yourself. A wise man once said, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you perform better. If you perform better, they pay better. Hell yeah. The wise man is Deion Sanders, who says that. And it's true. You know what I mean? You take care of yourself first. And believe me, that helps with everything. When your confidence goes up in the room, and you do all that, just even now, I enjoy buying clothes and, and dressing nice. And that, I think, I don't know, maybe this is all in my mind, but I just feel people take me more serious. or I feel like I should be taken more serious because now I know I have the self-discipline and I could, I take myself more serious.
Yeah.
Because I said, okay, I was going to do X, Y, and Z. And I actually did it. And I'm just thinking out loud right now, everything that I'm doing with fitness is the same thing that applies to a career in photography. And what I mean by that is this delayed gratification. And you do exciting work, and then, like with Sports Illustrated, it took me like 3 years to go with them. HBO, it took me like 3 years to go with them consistently. All right, you have to do that. Like right with your health, your fitness, it's like that too. You're not gonna eat one salad and go to the gym one time and I'm gonna be in shape.
You just keep showing up.
It's what you do like 90% of the time, 95% of the time on a consistent basis that helps you. And that applies to everything. That's like with the email blast list, like, right? You can't just do one email list, email blast, and and be done with it. There's another thing that I want to say to any photographer out there. No one's going to market your work better or more enthusiastically than you are.
That's right.
So there's nothing wrong with marketing your work and advertising your work, because I know mistake I did, or really bad advice that I've gotten before or heard before in the past, is that number one, like I think this is the worst advice ever. It's like, do good work and everything else will take care of itself. From my experience, that is the worst advice ever, because at least for me, I don't want my work to be a fallen tree in the rainforest. And you need to go out there. And then other advice that I heard photographers say, that, or just them maybe talking, sideways out of their mouth. I never market my work. I never, advertise my work and blah, blah, blah. I just give referral. They're lying. Yeah. They're all marketed. They're everybody, like me doing this podcast is marketing myself.
If you send an email to an editor, that's marketing work. If you make a post on Instagram, that's marketing work. And there is this weird mindset of like, oh yeah, marketing yourself, that's corny or whatever. It's like, no. You can still be true to who you are and what you do. You don't have to be like corny or whatever. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with like you do this work and you want people to see it. And like even me, I had that mindset. I'm like, if I post too much, I'm like selling myself too hard. It's like, no, I'm still gonna be myself, but I want people to know what I'm doing and hopefully, further my career and keep doing cool, have new opportunities.
Yeah. To give a direct example, I hired a consultant that used to be a full-time manager for like a really big name photographer, really successful. Like this photographer's pulling in 7 figures a year, like well known, doing like tons of advertising. And yeah, the consultant asked me, so what are you doing for your marketing? And I was like, I tell them, and then they get specific. They're like, oh, how big is your email list? And at that time, my email list, I want to say, was around 8,500 people. And then they asked me, oh, how often are you sending out your email blast? And I was like, once a quarter. And they came back and told me, this is not nearly enough. Like, to give you an idea what, that the other big name photographer was doing, their email list was 100,000 people. And they would send out email blast lists every month.
Yeah, because you think about, because this is interesting. So every day, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this, you get emails from like every goddamn company you've ever bought anything from. Like it could be like Best Buy, Delta, whatever, some Cheesecake Factory, whatever. And they're just emailing you promos every day. And you don't think twice about it. And it's like, not that you need to email people every day, but it's like, yeah, this is how the world works now. Like, it's not that big deal. You got to send your stuff out and let people see it.
Yeah, and the champion, because again, I had that for the longest time, and then, and I think part of me was also naive too, believing this other photographers. The ironic thing that I look back at it, like I was hearing them say that when they were speaking at a conference. And the irony in that is just like, dude, like you're marketing yourself. Right here. If you're speaking at a conference, right, you could say that, or they could say, oh, I know, I did zero marketing for this like tour and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, cool, but you had 8 sponsors.
It's like a weird flex. It's
a lie in flex, basically. It's just like everybody markets themselves, and you know what's not to knock on anybody else, but like another thing that makes me really think about marketing and pushing my work is that I have other friends that weren't photographers, but they did other things. They were like teachers or whatever. Yeah. And then a lot of people, I don't know why, or I feel like this way, but I feel like a lot of people default to like, oh, if all goes to hell, I'll sell real estate. And I have a lot of people that are like friends that become realtors. And like, and then once I see them become realtors, more power to them. I'm not like knocking anything like that, right? And like all their social media feeds, like, come to this open house, this 2 bedroom like house, like, right? So I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. Like do I want to market, okay, my work's coming out, or do I want to market, oh, a renovated 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, come check this out, right? Because at the end of the day, right, you're going to have to, not you have to, but depending on what you do, you're going to push something out, right? I'd rather push something that comes from the heart, that I work really, that's meaningful to me, like the work that I'm doing, than, than to say, oh, come to check out this renovated house, for bedroom and all that.
And also marketing, like, I think there's like this idea that marketing is like this like annoying thing. Like if we're creatives, and I've been trying to do this more lately. I've been like making like little reels with my photo projects and stuff and doing different ways to get it out there. It's like you can actually be creative with your marketing and make it interesting for people. And that's like half the thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's the biggest thing. Like push your work and do it, and you'll learn over time. As long as people know, you need to be on people's radar. If they don't know who you are, it doesn't matter if you're the best photographer in the world. If you don't want to be the best kept secret, you want people to know. And like I think it's just always better to put your work out there and do what you can. And like it's always best. Like what I like to say, just do it, and even if you fail, like fail on your own terms is success. Yep. Versus succeeding and compromising yourself. Like that's to me ultimate failure.
Well, Alexis, man, it's really great connecting, talking to you, and thanks for taking time to do this, man.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
So there you have it. That was the Alexis Cuarezma interview. Can't thank him enough for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to him about his ballet project, his recent magazine, and everything he's been working on. Just a really talented photographer and someone who has a real enthusiasm for photography. So it was a real pleasure talking to him. Definitely go check out his website at alexiscuarezma.com, as well as on Instagram. I'll put all his links in the show notes so you can go follow him there. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, if you're interested in supporting the podcast, I recently just made Photo Banter hats, which are available for purchase on my Instagram, the Photo Banter. You can just hit the link in the bio, and there's a merch store there now, but I'll put the link in the description as well. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, with this episode, you'll get 2 months free if you go to pickdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER. So definitely go check out PickDrop and let me know what you think. As always, thanks so much for listening, and take care.